Hello, my name is Douglas Bloch. I'm an author and mental health educator. Welcome to your Depression Recovery channel, where each week we talk about practical tools and coping strategies for healing from depression and anxiety. This is episode 13 of my audiobook, When Going Through Hell Don't Stop, a survivor's guide to overcoming anxiety and clinical depression. Today you'll be hearing part 2 of chapter 7, God is My Antidepressant, in which I continue the story of my journey of reaching out to my spiritual community in hopes that I could finally heal from this illness.
The Rebirth Statement. I left the group feeling nurtured by the loving attention I had received, but without any sense that a healing had taken place. If anything, things seemed to get worse as my anxiety increased over the next 2 days. Then, on Thursday morning, July 17, ironically my 13th wedding anniversary, I woke with a clarity and a peace that I had not experienced in 5 months. The normal symptoms of intense agitation and feelings of hopelessness were totally absent. I felt as if a dark cloud had lifted. I could scarcely believe it. Is this a miracle or a mirage? I asked myself. I had experienced other remissions, but they had usually lasted only 2 or 3 days. The longest I had gone without symptoms was 10 days in February. Grateful for what little peace I did have, I spent the afternoon walking with a friend through the holy grounds of the grotto, a local Catholic shrine dedicated to the Virgin Mary. The next day, I faxed my rebirth statement to the ministers at LEC and to the rest of my support team. The opening lines read, "With help from God, I am reborn to a new life. I have learned the lessons that the anxiety and depression came to teach, and thus have fully and freely released these symptoms from my body/mind. They are replaced by inner peace, emotional stability, vitality, wholeness, wellness, and joy. My brain chemistry is stabilized and in perfect balance. I am healed and made whole." The remainder of Friday passed without symptoms. That evening, I recorded in my mood diary that my anxiety and depression had dropped below a 2 on my system rating scale. This was my psychiatrist's definition of remission. In my journal, I wrote, "I actually feel good. There is no pain to bear, no suffering to endure." A person who has not lived with chronic, debilitating anxiety and depression cannot fully appreciate what it feels like to be liberated from one's anguish. For me, it was as if a 10-month migraine headache had suddenly ceased. On Saturday, July 19, I hiked to Multnomah Falls with a friend and watched the full moon rise over Mount Hood. "I haven't seen you this well since your illness began," Kathleen joyfully observed. Sunday morning, I attended church and spoke with Mary Morrissey about my remission. Referring to the support group, Mary exclaimed, "That was a God meeting." "What do you mean?" I asked. "I could feel the presence of spirit fill the room with love and peace." "So what do you think is happening?" Mary replied, "I sense that you are having a spiritual healing." For the next 21 days, I continued to experience a life without anxiety and depression. Then, exactly 4 weeks after the God meeting, I experienced a relapse, brought on by a recurrence of cellulitis, a severe infection of the soft tissue in my lower leg, and an unexpected separation from a close friend. Once again, loss triggered a depressive episode. For a brief time, the old symptoms returned, and I was back in the inferno, as my depression and anxiety levels skyrocketed to an 8 and above. Fortunately, a second support meeting had been scheduled for August 26, just 2 weeks away. Because I believed that the injection of light from the first meeting had catalyzed my remission, I had faith that my symptoms would end as soon as I met with my support team. Although I was in great pain, I was no longer hopeless about my recovery. At the next God meeting, people commented that I had clearly improved. There were now 14 people besides myself who attended. Members of the group remarked that even with the relapse, I seemed more vital, less agitated, and more light-hearted. I read my Rebirth Statement aloud and received helpful feedback on how to make it stronger and more definite. By the next day, my mood had once again improved. My Rebirth Statement was taking form. Subsequently, Mary scheduled our God meetings once a month so that I might receive regular injections of spiritual energy. With each new dose of light, I became stronger and more stable. By the conclusion of the third God meeting in September, my mood swings had ceased. I no longer contemplated suicide. My sense of humor returned. I was able to concentrate and to spend long periods of time by myself. I no longer needed shifts of people to monitor and keep track of me. In short, my depression and anxiety had healed without drugs or other conventional medical treatment. 3 additional God meetings were held at LEC in October, November, and December. At the October meeting, the group supported me in disposing of the tranquilizers I had saved for a future suicide attempt. The male members accompanied me to the men's room, where we emptied several hundred tablets into a large ceramic container. Then, each of us blessed the pills and dropped them, one handful at a time, into the toilet bowl. After a prayer of thanksgiving, we flushed them into oblivion. I later discovered that this is not the best way to dispose of psychiatric medications. The FDA recommends that you take them out of their original containers and put them into a sealable bag with an undesirable substance, such as used coffee grounds or kitty litter. Then throw the bag in the trash. At the November gathering, the group and I created another potent ritual. I burned the suicide note I had written the previous year, but not before photocopying it. On the back of the duplicate copy, I wrote the following. The words on this sheet were written at the depths of my depression. I am keeping a record of them, so that if I ever experience this state again, I can remind myself that no matter how bad things look or feel, there is always a reason for hope. I now let go of the despair expressed in this note and replace it with thoughts of hope and optimism. I turn the page on the past and begin a new chapter of my life. Each group member added his or her words of affirmation and encouragement to make the blessing complete. During this 3-month period, I continued to submit my weekly requests for healing, which were prayed over by the LEC prayer team and the entire ministerial staff. By the year's end, my support team felt that I was stable enough to continue the God meetings without the help of the church. My first reaction to the prospect of losing the church's support was that of fear. Fortunately, my therapist, Pat, assured me that I was well enough to make it on my own. The God meetings have since continued in my home as mastermind groups, in which group members both give and receive spiritual support. Because my healing was not caused by a physical substance, it is difficult to substantiate what occurred. No one photographed or recorded the doses of spiritual light I received. I possess no x-rays depicting that a cancerous tumor had shrunk. Neither did I throw away my crutches or take up my bed and walk. And yet, it was clear that something miraculous had taken place. There is a story in the Gospel of John in which the disciples, after seeing a man who was blind from birth, asked Jesus, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" Jesus answered, "Neither this man nor his parents sinned, but that the works of God should be revealed in him." Likewise, on some level, I believe I was stricken with depression so that Spirit could work a miracle in and through me, and that others could witness it. The power of prayer. At the height of my illness, Mary Morrissey had said, "There is a power within you that is greater than any condition you may face. If you ask that higher power for its assistance, help is available." The healing power of prayer was not a new idea to me. The spiritual tradition of unity and other New Thought metaphysical schools teach what is called affirmative prayer, a process of building and affirming an inward consciousness of what one desires. When this inner picture manifests in the external world, it is called a demonstration. I had demonstrated many things in my life: a new car, a lovely home, a book contract, even a pair of tickets to a sold-out Grateful Dead concert. But never healing of this magnitude. Fortunately, I was graced with a group of dedicated people who collectively held a vision of my wellness. It is my belief that the key ingredient in my healing was the presence of group energy. I had met and prayed with Mary Morrissey many times. I had prayed with other ministers and members of the prayer team, as well as with my therapist, and I still continued to decline. It wasn't until someone said, "Let's put all of your support people together in one room," that the healing power of prayer became fully activated. The combined prayers and positive thoughts of the group members set up a spiritual energy field through which divine love moved and healed my body and soul. Given the fact that many cases of depression have been known to resolve on their own, some doctors have suggested that I might have recovered without any spiritual intervention. Nonetheless, I choose to believe that my healing was a divine blessing. During my illness, a good friend had given me a book about the apparition of the Virgin Mary at Lourdes and the subsequent healings that had followed. I knew that a similar miracle was occurring in my life when, on the drive home from the second God meeting, Joan, Stuart, and I witnessed 4 magnificent rainbows illuminating the Oregon afternoon sky. Referring to Noah's encounter with the rainbow after the flood and God's promise of reconciliation, Stuart exclaimed, "This is just like living in the Bible." And so it was. The power of support. It was not only Spirit who healed me, it was people. One cannot overcome an illness like major depression or any dark night of the soul experience by oneself. The weight of the agony is too immense, even for the strongest-willed individual to bear alone. During my illness, 2 people close to me, a previous therapist and a fellow student of metaphysics, died by suicide in the midst of similar bouts of depression. The cause of their tragedies, I believe, lies in the words of Spanish philosopher Miguel de Unamuno, who said, "Isolation is the worst possible counsel." My friends had retreated into environments in which they were cut off from family, friends, and therapeutic assistance. Fortunately, many people in the Portland area extended themselves to me. The staff and patients at day treatment, my partner Joan, countless friends, and the prayer ministry of LEC. Without them, I would not have survived. I had a committed group of individuals who kept the high watch by holding a vision of my healing until it came to pass. And so I learned the lesson that is granted to survivors of emotional and physical trauma. When divine love heals us, it most often comes through the healing love of other people. As I read over the description of my recovery, I feel moved to add an important postscript. Just because spiritual intervention was a catalyst for my recovery, it doesn't mean that this is the path for everyone. For some people, healing may come from finding the right medication or nutritional supplement. For others, it may be through falling in love or pursuing a passion. Since the majority of people who are treated for depression eventually get better, i.e. most depressions are episodic, if you can endure the pain and set a strong intention to get well, you will likely be graced by some healing modality that works for you. The key is to hang on until the pattern of the illness shifts. Many people have observed that I attracted a particularly large support network of committed people. While this is true, I believe that support is available to anyone who earnestly seeks it. Potential resources include family, friends, co-workers, mental health professionals, one's church, synagogue, mosque, or other place of worship, 12-step meetings, 24-hour crisis lines, and telephone prayer lines. Even with the many resources that are available, some people feel too ashamed, shy, or anxious to reach out for help. If asking for assistance seems hard, please reconsider calling someone, even if it is a crisis line. Reaching out will make a real difference in your recovery. I promise.
This is Douglas Bloch. I hope you enjoyed listening to this part of my book. If you did so, please give the video a like. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments section, or you can email me, douglasbloch@gmail.com. If you'd like to subscribe to this channel, just click on my photo in the closing credits. You'll be taken to my subscribe page, where you can click on the subscribe button, and if you click on the bell up to the right or next to it, you'll be notified every time I make a new video or do a live chat. And until we meet again, I wish you the best in your mental health recovery. Thank you.